From the very beginning of Minecraft, there have been many unreleased features that have been left up in the air. We've heard about so many features we looked forward to, but sadly were never introduced into the game. This is the story of a lot of games these days, I feel like, with devs making promises and never following through. I won't call out any specific games though. Anyway, in the case of Minecraft, there's dozens and dozens of examples of this, but I went ahead and chose 12 of the ones I personally find most interesting to go through. So without further ado, let's jump right in with the stories of 12 features that have been mentioned and even promised by Notch and Mojang in the early years as well as recently, but never ever implemented into vanilla Minecraft. Let's start with the feature that started the whole thing, probably the first example of this in the game ever, the dirt slab. Although slabs exist for so many materials in the game, they obviously do not exist for dirt, or any other landscaping block at all for that matter. The reason this one is so crazy is not because it makes logical sense to have, like in my head Steve could easily dig a little dirt staircase out in his garden, but it's crazy because they were literally shown in this development screenshot by Notch, all the way back in Survival Test 0.26. If you just recently started playing Minecraft, you might not know that Survival Test is the literal birth of survival Minecraft as we know it today. So let me hammer this point home. Survival Test 0.26 was in October of 2009, nearly 16 years ago. Now, the reason Notch was like, yeah, no, never mind, this is not going to be released in the game actually makes a lot of sense. Back then, Minecraft was extremely unstable, way more than it is now, and Notch basically broke the world generation by trying to have dirt slabs as a part of the natural terrain that was generated. Half blocks did not work well with the early generation code. He couldn't figure out how to solve that easily, so just scrapped the whole thing. That's all well and good, but for the longest time after that, people who stuck around with the game were just begging Mojang to add something like that in. We got so many slabs, and many of us prayed every night to the Minecraft sun that we'd get terraforming slabs, but to no avail. I think if they stopped releasing complicated, stupid features that they work on for 6 years and no one actually cares about, and won't name anything specific, they could really garner some attention with simple additions like this. A terraforming or natural block update would really unite the masses, I feel like. That's something the game desperately needs. Dirt slabs, a peace symbol for all players to unite around. Someday the 15-year Minecraft veterans will get our wish. Someday. Now, let's stay in the ancient mindset for a bit and bring up a more widely well-known unimplemented feature, the giant. The giant is an unused mob that has been in Minecraft's code since almost the very beginning. It first became a part of Minecraft in 2009, which, along with dirt slabs, makes it one of the oldest unimplemented features in the entire game. In case you live under a rock or started playing Minecraft 5 minutes ago, the giant is literally a zombie mob model scaled up by 10, including its health and attack stats. The big boys look incredibly goofy and out of place in the world. You can still summon the giant to this day by using the command /summon Minecraft:giant. It's kind of sad that they aren't actually a part of the vanilla game, because if they were implemented correctly, they could actually become some epic overworld boss battle or something. Giants are still fun to spawn in though, and in a few of my livestream events and on my SMP, we've fought them for nostalgia's sake. Anyway, I won't spend too much time yapping about these because most of you know about them anyway. Let's move on to another ancient one I'm actually glad was never implemented, the red dragon. The red dragon is something that was quickly forgotten and overshadowed by its cousin and Minecraft's final boss, the ender dragon. Something you may not know is that when Notch originally announced the dragon final boss idea all the way back in the 8th Secret Friday update in August of 2010 for Minecraft Alpha, he actually intended for the dragon fight to all take place in the overworld. Later on, when he brought up dragons again in the tiny first Minecon event in 2010, he talked about there being a weaker variant to find in the overworld other than just the final boss dragon. He actually held on to that idea for a long time, as a year later in late 2011, when the Ender Dragon in End Dimension we know and love today was designed and ready to be released, Notch went on record, saying that they had made a weaker overworld variant called Red Dragons. Jeb then doubled down on this idea another year later in 2012, claiming in an old Reddit AMA that Red Dragons should be added, since Notch more or less promised them, but didn't know how they would be yet. Then, another year later in 2013, Dinnerbone, one of Minecraft's first employees after Jeb, would triple down on Red Dragons, first saying they were shelved and not in development, then subsequently going back on that and saying, yeah, they'll be added in the game sometime. I'm picturing every Mojang staff meeting in those early days having Red Dragon on the meeting agenda, and they all just shrugged their shoulders and said, we'll circle back to it next time, every single meeting. After that, we never heard of the red dragon ever again. It never even made it into Minecraft's files, but it makes me wonder if the original model and textures are stashed somewhere in an old archive file in Mojang's network. Anyway, I'm actually glad this wasn't implemented because in my opinion, overworld dragons would be so out of place in Minecraft, especially at the time. That would be taking it too far in the fantasy direction and didn't really fit into the game at all. Hell, even the Ender Dragon felt weird in 2011. Still does in some ways. Leaving the fantasy elements to Minecraft mod developers to iron out was a great decision in my opinion. Next, we have the zombie horse. The zombie horse is a feature that actually exists in the Minecraft code still, but was never implemented in regular gameplay. Zombie horses have been part of the game's code since skeleton horse traps were introduced in Minecraft 1.6 in 2013. A feature I honestly forgot existed until recently because I've never encountered one in the 12 years of playing after it was added. But zombie horses were not given a zombie horse trap feature or anything like that at all. You can only see a zombie horse using commands like summon zombie horse, but just imagine how things would be like if zombie horses actually roamed the overworld at night, giving players more variety in mob threats. Like, Mojang could have done it raid style. Just like this video sponsor raid shout. Nah, I'm just kidding. Like, make it so each night has a small chance to spawn a mini zombie raid on villages you have loaded in based on the difficulty of your game, and some of the zombies are mounted onto the zombie horse like little zombie cavalry. Wasted opportunity probably, but who knows, maybe a 12-year-old forgotten mob trapped forever in the files of the game will make it in someday. Next up, a more obscure one, the minecart with monster spawner. Like chest minecarts, hopper minecarts, and the controversial furnace minecarts, spawner minecarts are what you think they are, a way to transport a mob spawner from a dungeon to wherever you want. They were coded and introduced as a planned feature alongside the other minecart variants in the massive 1.5 redstone update, though the spawner minecart specifically was pulled at the last second before the update was rolled out. As fun as it would be, it's probably for a good reason, because imagine how broken it would be to move all the spawners you find to a massive farm, or in multiplayer using them to monopolize the mob spawn limits in the general area. I'm sure this one will stay obsolete forever, but you can actually still spawn them in using commands though. I do appreciate the ability to summon them staying in the game if you want to cheat and use it in your single player world, which if you're like me, you didn't even know they existed until I just told you. I didn't know, and I've been playing the game for almost half the time I've been alive. Next up we have melee skeletons. This one is also a semi-recent, well, by semi-recent I mean 13 years ago in 2012, feature that has never been seen in any official update. As we all know, skeletons have always used bows since their introduction in Minecraft Survival Test in 2009, where they were absolute menaces and could easily make your life a living hell. This makes them the classic ranged enemy and one of the most recognizable video game enemies of all time. A melee variant of the skeleton, which was created alongside the wither skeleton in 1.4.2, on the other hand, would challenge the players differently by having the skeletons use swords or axes to close the gap and deliver close-ranged attacks. But melee skeletons have obviously not appeared in the game. There are mods that add them in, which is cool because it adds a lot of variety of combat styles to deal with at night. I actually love the idea of them being implemented, though I highly doubt the vanilla game will ever see them, considering the 13-year time gap and wither skeletons running the melee show. Speaking of melee skeletons, there's also the opposite form, the ranged wither skeleton. Wither skeletons were first introduced in the aforementioned Minecraft 1.4.2 in 2012 with the pretty scary update, and they are infamously known for their disgustingly strong melee attacks, but they have never actually had the ability to use range weapons in the vanilla game. Though Mojang did use copied skeleton code to set them up initially. This means they actually still have bows and ranged abilities coded in to this day, though obviously wither skeletons holding bows never saw the light of day in vanilla Minecraft. I mean, can you imagine how annoying conquering a fortress would be if there were basically OP overworld skeletons running around and shooting you off the edge and dealing like half your HP per arrow? Regular skeletons have been known to end many hardcore worlds and be a huge pain in the ass in the early game, so I can't imagine having to deal with a wither skeleton variant. A rare Mojang feature W leaving those out in my opinion. We're halfway through now, and if you enjoy these nostalgic videos, remember to subscribe and watch the plethora I have on my channel. Anyway, thanks, back to the video. Moving on to the next one, we have the Illusioner. This one is a bit of an oddity that got lost in the code of the game and was never officially introduced in the standard gameplay. I'm honestly not really sure why though. It's been a fairly hot topic in the community, especially back around the Village and Pillage update. The Illusioner's code, model, and texture were first introduced in 2017 in Minecraft 1.12, and the idea was for the Illusioner to use magic to create clones of itself and blind the player. Weirdly, the Illusioner spawns wielding a bow, which makes me wonder when Mojang makes a new range-based mob, maybe they just start from the skeleton model, because a bow is a little weird of a weapon choice for a wizard who can literally clone itself. The plan, told to us by Mojang, was that the Illusioner would become another magical Illager raid mob alongside the Evoker, the classic strong Illager mob found in raids and mansions released in version 1.11 right behind it. This is yet to be seen though, and all we've gotten from Mojang is that they weren't quote-unquote satisfied with how the Illusioner behaves. Yet they haven't touched the poor dude in over 7 years now or said anything about plans to finally implement it into the game. I'm starting to think Mojang doesn't like absolutes and would rather be like, yeah guys, we'll get around to it, don't worry, instead of saying, I hate what I created and it will be scrubbed from your collective memory. One of the most recent features that was hinted at for future updates, but we haven't seen yet in Minecraft, is Fireflies. You've probably heard of this one, but it was first mentioned at Minecraft Live in 2021 as a planned feature to go along with the other things we saw come out in 1.19. This was the update that gave us frogs, and the idea was that frogs would eat the fireflies and that's how you would obtain the frog lights. However, this was scrapped for kind of an irrational and easy to fix reason. According to Mojang, they scrapped fireflies because, quote, fireflies are poisonous to some species of frogs in real life and will kill them if they're fed a firefly. The idea came from a good place, as Mojang was worried about some kid out there getting inspired by Minecraft and feeding a firefly to their pet frog and killing it by accident. But Mojang, couldn't you just like not have the frogs eat them? Couldn't we just have them be an atmospheric mob to spice up the boring swamp biomes at night? The only atmospheric mob we have are bats, and they are quite possibly my least favorite thing ever made in the entire 15-year history of the game. Also, what about other weird mob functions? You weren't worried about kids going around slapping cows with wheat in real life, hoping to make a baby cow and getting trampled by a bull. At the end of the day, it's not your job to parent the iPad kids who play Minecraft 12 hours a day. Anyway, I don't know, but I hope someday we still see fireflies to some capacity. I just love how simplistic the texture is, and it would be such a cozy thing to have flying around at night and lighting things up. The next one I'm going to talk about is fletching table functionality. Fletching tables were first introduced in 2019 for Minecraft 1.14, but as we all know, they lack any direct functionality in Minecraft gameplay. All they're used for is as a job block for Fletcher villagers. However, it wasn't planned to be this way. In the news post for Minecraft Snapshot 19W11, Mojang teased that fletching table functionality would be added in some way, shape, or form along with the smithing table, saying they have not decided to add them to this major update, which again was 1.14, but quote, we have a great idea for them in the next major themed update. Well, no one will ever know what that great idea was, because not only did fletching tables not get anything in the infamous Buzzy Bees 1.15 update, but neither did smithing tables, not getting the UI and functionality those have until the 1.16 Nether update with the addition of netherite. I doubt that whatever Mojang's idea was for the smithing table at that time was for netherite, but that's a rabbit hole for a different time. At least those got a function, whereas the fletching table was never brought up again after that news post. It kinda sucks because some sort of ranged weapon and arrow crafting system would work perfectly with a fletching table. Like getting rid of the terrible tipped arrow crafting recipes and make it a more intuitive, rewarding, and customizable thing in fletching tables. What's interesting is that there's a weird bug where you can go into spectator mode and right-click a fletching table, bringing up the crafting menu for a split second. Looks like they started to maybe add something there, but anything further obviously remains to be seen. Let's step away from Java Minecraft for a minute, as I like to do with these videos, and the next one is a Pocket Edition unimplemented feature story. This is the very curious story of the 4 unused paintings. This happened all the way back in 2012, one of the first versions of Pocket Edition ever, version 0.5.0. These 4 unused paintings were stored in its game files, still being in the Bedrock files to this day actually, but never officially implemented to show up when the player places a painting. These are Earth, Water, Fire, and Air.png. According to the very first community manager ever employed for Mojang, Helen, these were intended to be used for a promotional map during Minecon 2012. That map was never released though, and the textures have been collecting dust ever since. Until 2022. You thought the story was over, but it's not. In one of the snapshots for 1.19 that expanded several player and server commands, one of which being the addition of the placeable tag you can set on paintings to allow you to choose the painting you want to be placed rather than clicking 40 times to get the skull painting. I think you can see where I'm going with this. Curiously, the decision was made to transfer the 4 element paintings to Java files 10 years after they were created and allow players to select them when the paintings have that placeable tag. Like, they went out of their way to do this. It was literally intentional. Yet still, using those commands is the only way to get one of the 4 paintings in your world. I don't really understand why. I guess they just aren't Minecrafty enough, or maybe they're not allowed to use them, but it's by far one of my favorite niche Minecraft stories just because of how goofy it is. The last one I'm going to talk about is for the Bedrock OGs who have been playing Minecraft Bedrock Edition for a while now. Sorry to hear that, by the way. The paddle. So remember when boats were just these awkward rectangular rafts that sucked at turning and would break when you crashed into stuff? That was one of the biggest complaints back in the early 2010s, and so to circumvent this, Mojang implemented the new boat model and boat mechanics we know and love today in Java Edition. Those of you who have experienced the immense pain of having a full inventory away from your base in the days of when boats dropped planks and sticks when you barely brushed 1 pixel of the shoreline know that this is one of the best changes they've ever made. Now, if you're a Java player, something you may not know that this is one of the rare occurrences of Bedrock influencing the Java game heavily, rather than the other way around. You see, the new boat model was actually taken from Pocket Edition 0.11.0 back in 2015. Before this change, in 2014, Mojang was talking about adding a separate item to Bedrock entirely, the paddle. I'm not really sure why or how that would have even worked, but it never came to be. Maybe they were planning on having it be a sort of upgrade to the boat, but to me, I'm glad it never came out because that's just unnecessary fluff for an already flawed feature. What's incredibly interesting about this, and Bedrock players will know this already, in Bedrock only, the crafting recipe actually made you put a wooden shovel in the middle square of the crafting table. This was to, I guess, mimic the paddle, but it's so goofy and weird, and surely Mojang took it out in a reasonable amount of time and didn't take 8 years to... Oh. Yeah, the wooden shovel was removed to match the Java Edition recipe again, like, just last year. God, the money I would pay to hear and read the inner discussions on these weird stories for Mojang. In 2014, it would have been something like, okay, first item on the agenda, ideas for the boat update.
What if paddle?
Yes.
Paddle bad. What if shovel?
I like the way you think. So everyone thinks shovel is bad. Any ideas?
What if get rid of shovel?
No. There has to be another thing. Let's keep it on the agenda the next 3 years and change absolutely nothing. All right, it's been on this list forever. Can anyone please tell me an actual good idea for once?
Wait. A novel idea. Get rid of shovel and match the Java Edition recipe.
Yes, maybe this will finally get people to play Bedrock. Well, these were some of the features that I found super interesting that have been mentioned but not been implemented into the game officially. Which one do you think should have made it for sure out of this list? Let me know in the comments and also suggest what other nostalgic Minecraft things you want me to cover in my next video. I love you all so very much. Go summon some giants or zombie horses today, and I'll see you all in my next video. Special thanks to my channel members on these signs, especially my knights Thomas Wellman Boyd, Melon Siggy, Ferret Wolf 95, Fantic, Green Fox 453, Darklight, Henetic 02, and Jamie, and my beloved Lord members Jazz This, Dirty Dan, Jake P 2013, Annoyed Avenger, and Wooden Bear Productions.